Welcome to Body by Design. I'm your host, Blue Driver, a women's strength training and metabolism coach. I went from years suffering hormone imbalances, looking soft and bloated, to symptom-free and building muscle for a toned athletic physique. Since then, I've made it my mission to empower women to take control of their own health, hormones and body composition. So grab a cup of coffee and let's build your body by design.
Hello and welcome back to the Body by Design podcast. I'm Lou Driver, your host, and today I want to talk about one element that if you are tracking your food or at least attempting to track and understand that, and you cannot maintain your weight, or you can do a deficit but it doesn't always work, I can guarantee you are missing this one critical piece. So let's dive in. What I'm seeing predominantly with my clients where they struggle and what we have to talk through is the maintaining side of things. So they could be great dieters, but then as soon as it comes to maintenance, they see the scale week by week creeping up again. And it can be for the same for someone who's trying to diet and then they go, oh, well, it worked last week, but it didn't work this week. And now my weight's gone up, and you're up and down with your weight and you kind of don't really move anywhere, even though you're supposedly in your deficit calories. Now, I'm going to take an example of a recent client of mine where we've had a conversation, and she can diet really well. When she's like, right, I've got a job to do, I've got this specific period of time, I've got my macros, she sets everything up, she dials in and she diets really well. Weight comes down. She has a higher body fat percentage, so we need to keep working on the dieting phases specifically for her at the moment, whilst we continue to build and maintain that muscle mass. So we're doing that. So we're doing deficit phases, and in between the phases, we give the body some rest from dieting, bring the nutrition back up so it doesn't adapt and start getting used to the lower calories and then start maintaining at those calories. So that's the strategy we've been doing. But in the maintenance phases, we're seeing the weight creep back up. So she'll lose weight and then gain some half back every time she maintains beyond the glycogen effect. If you haven't heard me talk about the glycogen effect before, I actually do have a podcast on it. So scroll back on my podcast and you will find that. So the problem is the maintenance phase. And I think this is the problem for everyone. We have become so good at dieting in society, that good, that our metabolisms are adapting, and then we're like, well, I can only eat 1,200 calories because I put weight. It's not. It's actually, if you jumped onto a TD calculator and what you eat at and maintain your weight at is a lot lower than that calculator, it's one of two things. You've either overestimated in your output, your exercise expenditure, and you're probably have down-regulated. So your metabolism is starting to shut down some functions and starting to preserve energy because it's been in a chronic low for so long. Now, that doesn't mean that you're broken and blah, blah, blah that we hear all over the internet. It's got nothing to do with that. It's metabolic adaptation, and you need to reverse diet and spend some time coming back up again. But it's the maintaining that people don't seem to be able to nail. So they might go with a coach, get a result, and then when they're on their own, they can't maintain. Now, let's talk about with tracking specifically. Tracking is a tool that I use. There are different ways that you can lose weight for sure. Tracking just gives people a really good understanding of what they're actually eating rather than guessing. And then later on, it doesn't need to be as specific because you've learnt the tools to become a little more intuitive. But to get to where you want to go, particularly with the type of women that I work with, yes, they want to feel healthier. Yes, they want to lose some body fat, but they want that body composition change, which is they want to look sculpted. So they want more muscle and that lower body fat percentage. Now, to do that in a healthy manner, you've got to be really specific about things and know what you're eating, what your strength markers are. Are you increasing? If the scale moves, is it body fat or muscle mass that is doing that? So we track all of those things. And tracking your food is one of those markers and will specifics that we use. The biggest piece that you're missing, though, when you're trying to maintain and it's not working, is compensation. So there is this ideology in the world that when you are where you want to be or to be healthy, that you've got you've got this flexibility and there's balance. Unfortunately, you just don't get what flexibility and balance actually is, particularly when you don't know specifically what's going into your food. So what I find is that people who are tracking and trying to hit their targets, particularly when they're trying to build muscle, because we know we shouldn't underfuel when we want to build muscle, they fall apart when it comes to either special occasions or eating out. And this one particular client that I'm talking about is, it all came to a head over the Easter period, because then at that Easter period, she said, I didn't track for Easter. I thought it would be a really good time to start working on maintaining without tracking. That is not how you learn to maintain. You do not go into a weekend that's full of celebration, full of foods that high in calories. So we're talking chocolate, hot cross buns. People eat out a lot for breakfast to celebrate. And if you haven't been able to maintain under normal circumstances, trying to maintain when you're eating out or eating different foods is going to really throw you. And then because people are trying to train and make sure that they're fueling, they're not making compensation for it. So when you go out to eat, if you are doing the whole I'm choosing wisely and you're not entering anything into your diary and you're eating all your macros, you're like, right, I'm just going to hit all my macros, but I'm eating out. So I'll have a normal day because I've really got to fuel my training. So I'll have a normal day and then I'll just choose wisely when I'm out. That is exactly where you are going wrong. You haven't actually spent some time forward planning. You haven't made any compensation. And I'm going to be brutally honest, you've got no fucking idea what's in that food that you're eating when you're out. And there are things that you need to actually do when you track to go out as well. Like you want to add 10 or 15 grams of fat because they cook so much more heavily in fats, because they're in a restaurant. They're just about producing good food. They're not thinking about your health. They're not thinking about your weight. They're just producing good meals that everyone wants to eat. And just naturally, they will cook with more oils. So did you actually compensate for that? You'll go, well, steak and potatoes, really good. Yep, okay, steak and potatoes is actually a really great choice when you go out, get a nice grilled steak, maybe a baked spud with the sour cream on the side, whatever it is. And then, bit of salad that comes on the plate as well. The thing is what you would eat at home, you would probably eat half that amount of steak, half that amount of potatoes, and you probably wouldn't have the amount of oil in the salad dressing that particular meal has. And you've not compensated for that. Now, there are two ways that you can compensate. You can compensate by not eating everything on your plate. Now, it may be a smart choice. You haven't chosen highly caloric foods in the sense of, really fatty foods or really rich foods or anything like that. But the fact that you just ate a 300-gram steak when at home you probably ate 125 grams, you've just doubled your protein intake. Yes, it's protein. We need protein, but it's still calories. You still just doubled in one item on your plate. Most steaks, when you eat out, 250 to 300 grams. So if you eat that entire steak without making any compensation in your day, then you have just doubled your calories in the steak component alone. Are you thinking about how much potato is actually on your plate? Would you put that much potato on your plate at home? Are you thinking about the dressing that has come on that tiny weeny little side salad that you went, it's just a tiny side salad, I'll eat it anyway, which has probably got 20 grams of fat in it? You're not compensating for what you're eating. And this is where you're going wrong. You're hiding underneath the whole thing of, I'm going to choose wisely. I need to learn to do it without tracking. You need to do it with tracking first, then you do it without tracking. Okay, if you cannot maintain yourself without tracking on your day-to-day, normal week, general foods, general eating, you are not going to be able to do it when you go out. And if you are still on the journey trying to reach your goals, so maybe you are in a deficit phase, why are you not tracking that food? It's going to tell you exactly what you're eating. So there's two ways that you compensate. You compensate in your day before you go out if you don't want to leave behind a steak. So I get it. You go out, you pay $40 to $50 for a steak. You don't really want to just eat half and leave the rest. Okay, that's fine. But you still need to pre-plan and you need to compensate for that. If you're planning on eating an entire steak and what comes out on your plate, because they aren't high caloric food. You need to actually think about it. Ask for the dressing on the side. So if you want to eat that salad, you can, and you can control how much dressing you put on it. Ask for the sour cream for the baked potato on the side so you can control how much you put on it. Then it becomes a meal where you get to choose how much you eat. But if you actually plan this before you go out, and this is the whole thing I've always said, plan in advance. You're never going to meet your macros if you don't plan in advance. So this is the starting point. So if you aren't in a place where you have the body composition you want, start here. Please start here. Don't start with I'm going to go on a body composition journey and I'm going to try and lose body fat and build muscle, and I'm not ever going to track my food when I go out because I need to learn to choose wisely. Well, to learn to choose wisely, my love, you need to actually understand what is in that food. And I can 100% guarantee you, even your wise choices, you're eating way too much and you haven't compensated for it in your day. So this is where either maintenance comes unstuck because you never learnt that through your journey, or when you're trying to achieve that body composition, you're not applying this, so you're overeating, you're over-consuming. Most people's problem is overconsumption. Yes, undernourishment means you're not actually getting the right nutrients. And yes, restriction, I talk about that a lot, but people generally restrict to then binge, which for the week equates to overeating. So if you have a high body fat percentage, you have an overeating issue. Okay, you're just consuming more calories. Yes, I get there's nuances of hormones and all this sort of stuff, but you don't get to 35, 45% body fat without actually over consuming as well. You could have some hormonal issues and some metabolic issues in there as well, which addressing meal timing and balance and quality of food can actually rectify. It still doesn't discount the fact that you are likely over consuming in calories. And this is one of the biggest places, is when you eat out or special occasions. Okay. Because you don't want to think about it. You don't want to do the hard work of what do I have to do? And if you're not willing to do the hard work, you have to let go of the idea of the perfect body. There is no perfect body, by the way, but you know what I mean? Like you actually have to do the work it takes to get to the body that you want. Then you get some flexibility. Or don't do the work, but don't continue with the desire to have a body that actually requires specificity. So, you need to track your lifts. You need to know how much you're going up in your lifts all the time. You need to know how much food you're eating. You need to know what your energy expenditure is in NEAT. You need to know all those sorts of things to build a physique that has popping muscle, because that is lower body fat and a lot of muscle, and it takes a lot to actually get there. So if you want that body, you have to give up this whole thing of I'm just going to choose wisely. Now, you may think that that's restrictive, then give up the idea of a perfect body that you've got in your head. You can't want one without doing what's required. Okay. So plan in advance. You know you're going to be going out for dinner. That's great. You know Mary Jane's wedding's coming. That's great. Whatever it is, pull up the menu. Okay. You pull up the menu. And if it's someone's wedding or someone's party, bring them up and just say, hey, can you tell me what's on the menu? I'm planning. I'm in a deficit at the time. Or, I'm trying to reach some body goals at the moment. Can you just tell me what the menu choices are so I can program it for the day and still come and enjoy your wedding? Hey, do you know how many times I've heard, well, it's a wedding, I don't know what they're having? Pick up the fucking phone. You know the person. You've just been invited to their wedding. I'm assuming you know them. Pick up the phone. Stop being a dick about it. Like, really, it's just so many excuses. Or, well, I hadn't been to that restaurant before. Yeah, okay, so jump online. Jump online and look for the menu. Most restaurants these days will have a menu online. If they don't, ring them up and get them to email it to you. It's a 2-second job. Then you get to choose what you're going to have, okay? So plug that in. Take a typical day of eating, remove the dinner, and plug in what you think you're going to eat. And get real about the amounts. If you're going to have the grilled fish or a steamed chicken breast with vegetables or whatever, I can tell you now there's at least 200 grams of meat there. Steaks will generally state it on the menu. If it's not stated, bank on 250 grams. Can be up to 350 for a steak. They will generally put the amounts of a steak on there. But even your fish and your chicken will be a serve of around 200 grams. I can guarantee you that's probably not how much protein you're eating for a dinner of an evening. So already just buy whatever is on the menu. Those meals are too large. So you have two choices here. Am I going to compensate somewhere in the day to allow myself to just go out and eat that main meal and not really think about it. Not that you're not thinking about it, but not worry about not eating it all. Or am I going to just eat how I normally eat and I'm not going to eat it all and I'll take the rest home as, geez, if you don't eat all the steak, ask them to put it in a little doggy bag and take it home with you and have it for a lunch the next day. You'll get 2 to 3 meals out of it. 2 to 3 meals out of one steak that you order. It doesn't have to go to waste. But they are your 2 choices. You need to compensate in the day somewhere, or you need to compensate in that evening with what they serve you by not having the full amount. Yes, you're still eyeballing, so that in itself is going to produce inaccuracies. But if you have been weighing your food, paying attention to what the food looks like on the scale and on the plate, you will look at that meal and you'll go, that is a big meal. So find some compensation. Now, rather than just telling you compensate, you need to plan in advance, know exactly what you're going to eat, have a look at the menu and know what you want to eat before you go. Okay. Then make the choice of, am I compensating through the day or am I compensating for the meal? Where I am now, I generally just compensate for the meal. So even now that I don't really track, I am still compensating. If I'm going out to dinner and I just want to eat the dinner and I don't want to think about leaving some behind and getting a doggy bag and all that sort of stuff, I make adjustments through the day and it just comes naturally now, because at the end of the day, you can enjoy ad hoc meals or items. Say you want the cookie, have the fucking cookie occasionally. Not every day, but have the cookie, but compensate for it. Have the meal out, but compensate for it. You can't just eat everything in your plan and then go, I'm going to have a cookie on top all the time. It's just not going to work for you. And the more accurate you are, the faster you will get to where you're going. But that doesn't mean don't eat the cookie. That means allow for the cookie. So for me now, I'm looking for a way to compensate throughout my day. So a very common one that I do, so generally I eat the same macros every day. I'm about the 2350 is roughly what I eat. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. Yeah, I'm in there. But if I am not training, I generally just eat a snack that's equivalent calories. It's not the same as my training meal, because my training meal, I've really worked out specifically what works for my body, and I need a starch and I need a really simple carb like a honey, and I don't like to eat meat or anything like that because it repeats on me a little bit when I'm training so hard. So I've really honed in my training meal, but on a non-training day, I'm still having that meal of macros and calories. Okay, it might be different foods, but it's still a meal of macros and calories. So the easiest thing for me to do if I'm going out for dinner and I'm not training that day, I just drop my training meal. There we go. There's 350 calories right there. It's about 350, 400 calories right there that roll over into my dinner calories as well. So it allows for a larger meal. Or maybe I do train that day. I have quite a heavy bedtime snack as well because I train at the end of the day. So I'm really pushing movement and recovery at the end of the day. So I do have quite a heavy bedtime meal. Well, okay, if I'm going out for dinner, I do not need to come home and have milk and chocolate and honey or maple syrup or whatever and collagen and everything that goes in it. I don't need that. And so often I see women make this mistake and they go, oh, well, I chose wisely while I was out. And then they still come home and have a bedtime snack. Like, what the fuck for? You just ate 700 calories out. Like, you ate a large meal. Why are you doing a bedtime snack? It's not going to hurt you not having that bedtime snack, because it's not like it's a daily practice. A bedtime snack can actually be really great for women in assisting their sleep and not waking up through the middle of the night, especially in that 40-plus age bracket where hormones are starting to shift. Cortisol gets a little bit high because we've neglected ourselves over the years, and we get that 3 a.m. wake up. And a bedtime snack can actually really help with that. Keep your blood sugar stable and your liver glycogen replenished through the night. But if you've just had a really big meal, you don't need to come home and have the bedtime snack. So this is what I'm saying. They're like, oh, but I need to make sure that I'm eating enough to support myself. Yep. And you're going to get that in one meal. Now, do I recommend having one really big meal of an evening and going lighter during the day as a standard practice? No, I'm teaching women to spread their calories throughout the day, go a little bit heavier in the morning, especially if you train in the morning, things like that, to fuel your body when you've got the most movement and just provide balance. So just even things out through the day. So it's not big meals, little meals, because that's almost like, binge and restriction within the day itself. But one day, it's not like you're eating out every day. Well, you shouldn't be if you're trying to change your body composition anyway. It should be predominantly home cooked meals. But if you're going out on the weekends to be on a weekend to be social with some friends, doesn't mean that you can't go a little bit lighter for the day and have that bigger meal. It's once. It's not going to hurt you. It's when you do that all day, every day, that and you're so dysregulated with your eating that your body starts to suffer from it. But you're not going to do that. Also, if you choose good quality proteins and a good quality carb and stuff like that in the meal when you're out as well, that's going to make a difference to you rather than just a, you know, shitty, deep fried, crappy meal. Choose something nicer that's going to nourish your body as well. But the size of it does count. It's not going to hurt you to have a little bit of a lighter day for a heavier meal if that's what you want to do. The other side of things, so that's compensation within the day. When I actually was originally on my health and fitness journey, my hormone regulation was horrendous. I suffered with chronic endometriosis, chronic thrush. Doctors couldn't help me, flew across the country, taking all these medications. Even the doctors, one doctor specifically said to me, "Oh, don't bother with food. Your chronic thrush has got nothing to do with food. You're just going to stress yourself more. Don't worry about that. You just need to live with it and take this medication. And when you hit menopause, it'll get better." That's what I was told. I can tell you now that was very wrong. When I changed my food, my endometriosis disappeared. I have not suffered with it for years. And my chronic thrush that I suffered with for 7 years on medication disappeared. Absolutely, food quality does have an impact, and your food regulation. So in those early stages, when I started to understand this, I absolutely would leave something behind. I would keep myself regulated through the day, and I would just go out and go, okay, well, that's a 250-gram steak. I'm just not going to eat it all. I would have about half at home and I would take the rest home. Or I would order an entree, so something was a smaller portion. I wouldn't eat the salad that was drowned in oil. Like, I literally kept my meals regulated. So I planned before I went out, and then I eyeball and went, right, if I plan before I go out, this is about how much of each of those things of the meal I've chosen. So say I've chosen the steak and potato and side salad. I've put into my chronometer how much of each I actually need to eat to meet my macros for the day. And I went out and I would look at it and go, well, that's too much there. And I ate what I needed and left the rest. Now, whether I took it home or not really doesn't matter. It's not the point of the story. The point of the story is in the beginning, I did the hard yards. You have to do the work in the beginning, and you have two choices. Eat regularly throughout the day and leave some food behind, because I can guarantee you, doesn't matter where you eat out, a main meal out is going to be caloric heavy, and their portions are going to be huge compared to what you normally eat. So if you want to be able to eat all your food, your regular food during the day, and you don't want to give any of that up, you have to give up some of that meal. You're still out, you're still eating, you're still socializing. You just don't need to put the whole fucking lot in your mouth, is what it comes down to at the end of the day. And you can't, the thing is you can't just do this week in, week out, and keep saying, I'm choosing wisely, and expect to get a result. And that's where people in maintenance lose what they've been doing, is because they don't learn compensation. If I go out for breakfast, I've actually tracked my breakfast of typically what I like to get at my favorite restaurant. And I can tell you now, and I like to have the coffee and the juice and the sourdough, and I don't want to have to tell them, don't butter it. So I have it all. Okay. And I could tell you that's a 700 to 800 calorie meal for breakfast. And that's scrambled eggs on a piece of sourdough with an orange juice and a flat white. But doesn't actually sound like I'm having much. Oh, and it's got avocado. Sorry, it's got avocado as well. So it sounds like your average meal out. I chose wisely. It was eggs, it was sourdough, it was orange juice, all good things for me. Yeah, they're all good things for me, but they all add up to 800 calories, and there's no way you can change that. So if I ate out every weekend, I'm eating at least 300 calories more if I don't compensate during the day, because my breakfast is about 500 calories. So this is where you need to understand that even where you get to where you want to go, the people who aren't tracking and maintaining is because they understand this. I can have the cookie, but it means I might give up my nighttime chocolate. Okay, so if I go to a friend's place and she puts a bunch of cookies down and those cookies look really good, okay, they might have wheat or preservatives, or who fucking cares? I'm going to eat a cookie, they look good, and I'm going to have it with my cuppa. Great. Am I going to go home and have all of my chocolate at my bedtime snack as well? No, I might just have the milk and maple syrup and collagen. So that's what I'm having at the moment, is milk, maple syrup, collagen, and some Lindt chocolate for the night time. But if I have the cookie, I don't have the fucking chocolate. Now, is that exact calories? Probably not. Is it that exact macros? Probably not, but I'm a damn sight closer to my calories than what I am if I have the cookie as well as continuing to eat the chocolate. And see how I chose the chocolate to drop down on, because chocolate is actually really caloric dense. It's quite high in fat and it does have a lot of carbs in it too. So I've chosen something that I can minimally cut down on and have a big impact. So people who are maintaining without tracking are thinking about it. You can't go, oh, I hit on my macros. Oh, but for balance, I had a cookie too every fucking day. You just got to remember that everything that whether you want it to count or not, every lick, sip, bite, treat that you put in your mouth is going to add up. And if you're always eating, and this is the other thing, if you're always eating at maintenance, right, and you're tracking your calories and you're going really well with doing that, but then you don't compensate for all these other things because that's balance, well, now you do anything over that is a surplus. Anything over that is a surplus. So if you are eating at maintenance every day, you cannot just add something in on top because, oh, I'm not dieting, I don't need to be as strict. Now, with dieting, that cookie is going to take a lot of your calories, and you probably don't want to have a cookie for such small volume of those calories. So we tend to be willing to go without, but then we get to maintenance and go, well, it's all about balance. Well, it is, but you still need those fucking calories to balance, I'm afraid. You just cannot get away with it. And if you're always like taking yourself up and eating enough at maintenance, those extras actually tip you over the edge quite easily compared to someone who might be maybe doing a recomp and they're slightly under in their calories. There's maybe a little bit of wiggle room there. So when you're eating at maintenance, you must factor in compensation, and that is where balance comes from. You don't have to say no to the cookie. You don't have to say no to the meal out, but you do have to place some fucking common sense in there and go, well, I probably can't eat everything else and expect to continue to maintain if these habits are always there. And let's face it, when we're at maintenance, we want to have that flexibility. We want to be able to go out with friends. We want to be able to say yes to some things. So do it. It's great. Do it. As long as 90% of your foods are really great, easy to digest carbohydrates, dairy, animal fats, animal proteins, like you've got a really great quality meal, foods going into your diet, that once in a while that you say yes to something, no matter what it is not going to hurt you. But that doesn't mean it won't make you gain weight if you're constantly going over your calories. So you have to learn balance is actually not about, balance is not, oh, I eat healthy so I can eat the shit food. That's actually not what balance is about. I don't eat shit food often at all because I don't like the way it makes me feel. And I feel very balanced because I'm full of energy. I sleep well. I train hard. I just really enjoy it. So going out and eating shit food actually just doesn't make me feel great. We went out on the weekend, not a great menu, typical pub menu. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to have here. And I went, I might just have the palmy. And I thought, I like palmies. And I do like palmies, but I know how I feel afterwards. I feel really heavy and blah afterwards. It's like, all right, I'll just go that. But then when I looked at the specials board, they had like a Portuguese chicken with a side salad. It did come with chips. So I went, I'll have that. Just change the chips for mash because they've got mash as a side dish. So I don't have to deal with the fatty chips. And now I don't have to deal with the bleh feeling after the palmy. Okay. That was my choice because I prefer to feel that way. Okay. So this isn't about good food, bad food. This is about balance, is about the calories as well. And if you don't learn to just compensate on a day-to-day basis, just get realistic. You've just been out for dinner. Do you need to have your fucking bedtime snack? Do you need to have a dessert every time you eat out? Because when you eat out, you know that the meal in itself is large. Do you have to have a dessert? When you eat out, do you have to have 4 Cokes with it or, wine or whatever? I generally just get a sparkling water. I did this weekend get a Coke with it. I felt like that I had the calories I checked, compensated during the day because I hadn't trained. So I was able to give some of that up. And I chose something that was a lighter fat on the menu. So I had some more calories there. But if it's a higher calorie meal, I'll just go, all right, I'll just have a sparkling water. I don't need to drink my calories. And I honestly don't feel like I miss out from it because I feel good all the time. When you learn how to balance things, I just think in this world, we've got this warped perception of what balanced is. And when you're thinking about it in the way I'm talking about it here, a lot of people see that as restriction restriction or see that as obsessive. Yet what I see is denial and excessive indulgence, excuses. So choose your hard. It's hard living in a body that feels tired, that's full of perimenopause symptoms, that doesn't lose body fat, that doesn't train well, that doesn't sleep well. It's really fucking hard living every single day in a body and skin like that. So choose your hard. And at the end of the day, it ends up not feeling hard, because when the results of eating better and eating within your body's energy needs and you feel better, it doesn't feel hard anymore. It actually feels really good. And then it starts just becoming your preferred choice over I should. And this is what you need to shift your perspective on this. So if you are tracking and you're finding that you can't maintain, or the minute you stop dieting, everything goes up, then you need to start looking at compensation and get real with yourself. Stop the bullshit, I'm just going to choose wisely, and spend some time educating yourself by planning and tracking what you're going to eat. Because I guarantee you, when you start actually doing that and putting it into your tracking app, it's going to show you don't know how to choose wisely. It's going to show you how many calories are actually in that meal. Okay. So start there and then start making some better choices from there.